Hi, all. Welcome to today's HEN Live. It's a super exciting day. We are going to be joined by Shwetha, and she's going to be sharing about her book. And HEN is your go to community for women entrepreneurs who inspire, inform, and support each other to scale up and grow their businesses and to lead balanced lives. And in this journey, we met Shwetha, and we are super delighted to have her, reach this landmark where she has actually gotten to write a book. So we learn all about Shweta first, and then we'll move on to the book. So welcome, Shweta, and we are super delighted to have you with us today. Before we move on to talk about your book, we would love to hear how you got started with your entrepreneurial journey and what do you do. So please share with us.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. And it's always a delight to be a part of HEN Group. I think to give a introduction to how I got started on my entrepreneurial journey, I always say it was accidental. I
Okay.
had just reached a point where I said something about the corporate life wasn't working for me, and I said I needed to discover what it is that actually aligns with who I am and what really sparks me. And
Mhm.
that self discovery journey is something I started in 2019. And Being Miraculous was just a blog at that point in time where I would share thoughts around life and living. And I always say that the only skill I have is writing, right? So that's the one hard skill I had. And I said, okay, what can I do with it? But
Okay.
that is the time when I went into meditation. I got into Indic scriptures, Vedanta, Yoga Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, and I realized a lot of what I was feeling, I was not alone in feeling that. And these are not unique challenges that I had, but things that have
Yeah.
been, humans have been suffering and encountering over and over again centuries before also. And
Mhm.
I got really interested and I said, hey, if the answers are there, why am I reinventing the wheel to find it? So I
Okay.
started really learning in that quest to say what does it take to live life well, because somewhere for me the whole rut of Monday to Friday kisao, and then Saturday Sunday you unwind, long weekends and vacations is when you come alive, and then the rest of the time you endure. Something about
Yeah.
that just didn't sit well for me. I said, I want to wake up each day feeling empowered. I want to wake up feeling each day feeling a sense of joy and purpose that, hey, I'm doing something meaningful to contribute in whatever small way I can. But I wanted
Mhm.
that sense of purpose. I wanted that sense of agency to choose. And when I started finding those answers, I said, I said, like, you can't keep it to yourself. You
Yeah.
want to share it. And a podcast started in 2019, just like that, saying, how can I really just capture what is it the insights I'm learning about myself? Who am I without my corporate job
Mhm.
and identity? Who am I outside of my roles and relationships? Questions I kept asking myself. I captured it in the form of small audio journals in 10-minute episodes. And that really started resonating. So, in a few months, I think about 6 months or so within 2020, I had people asking me, saying, should I quit my job? Should I leave my relationship? And these were questions that were completely out of scope on Instagram DMs for me. And it also made me realize that this comes with a lot of responsibility. So that's when
Yeah.
I got into my coach training. And now Being Miraculous essentially offers, obviously, our content still goes on. Podcasts are still a great channel, but we have like journaling workshops to, boost self awareness, to really sit with yourselves, ask yourself those tougher questions. We have
Yeah.
longer form courses and, of course, coaching for those looking to find clarity, to find that confidence, to really live boldly and courageously, I would say.
That's so wonderful, Shweta. In fact, I think being in the corporate career myself for 13 years, I think that was the reason I quit. But only to realize that entrepreneurial journey means it's no longer 9 to 5, it's 24/7. But on that note, I really want to ask you, what does miraculous actually mean? Like, it's a very different name. What does it mean?
Yeah, so miraculous actually is a noun form from the Greek word meraki, which means to
Mhm.
live life with complete involvement, presence, devotion. All of those things which I felt I was missing in my corporate life, because I would work like a zombie and then live for a few days. And I said, can
Mhm.
it really be that in every single moment, even right now, as I'm talking to you, Priyanka, can I be fully present, fully attentive, completely here and now? And offering it with all my heart and all my presence, right? So Miraculous was how I really wanted to do things in life. And being was so that we are so conditioned by our productivity that if you were to step back from the doing, we feel like, like we are lost without an anchor, rudderless.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to say, can I be with ease? Can I really say that, okay, I did what I had to do, now can I rest with ease? And both of these are things that I'm still working on. So I proudly call myself a work in progress, but being reckless is my answer to say, how can I really live life well?
Okay. That's wonderful, and I love the meaning of this word. Um, Coming to your podcast, right? So you started your podcast, and you also mentioned it was parallel. You were seeking those answers and you were sharing. How was that journey? Because a lot of times, I think the apprehension is that when I'm starting something out, I should be the master. I should know it well before I share it with others, right? So, how did the audience respond to that? Because I understand you were on your own journey and you were sharing that. So, did the audience resonate well with that, or did you face any challenges?
I'd like to think that it resonated even more than that, right? Because for me, the biggest challenge was whenever I would look at all these podcasts or listen to inspiring stories, it was like a fairy tale, right? You
Hmm.
already know it is a happily ever after. उसमें उनको मजा ही नहीं आ रहा था. I'm like already ending पता है, right? But this game of life, that's why I'm so fascinated by it, because even if you arrive, you can't really arrive anywhere, right? It is such a huge journey.
Yeah,
And maybe the choice of subject gave me the confidence ki, I can never be a master of this. I can only be a student of life. And I said,
yeah,
as I'm learning, can I take a few people along, because bore ho jate yaar, it's too long a journey, it is too tedious a journey. And it is, while we have to walk the path alone, in all seriousness, I think whatever is our spiritual journey,
mm,
we have to walk that path alone. But can we do it with people around us so that we walk the path together, and it
yeah.
is actually a lot more easier? So I proudly say I'm a work in progress, and I share that, right, with my community, with the people I work with my coaches and my clients, that I don't have the answers. I'm also figuring it out. But what do I really know well is, how can I sit with myself when I don't know the answers? That is something I've learned over the 8 years, to really just say, okay, pata nahi, but I can stay with it. I can be
Okay.
kind to myself, even if I don't know. And I think that vulnerability also helps my clients open up, because they also don't feel the need to put up the defenses that they probably will put up in a worldly conversation.
Wonderful. And I think that's so rightly said that any journey we embark on, it can tend to get lonely. And I think that is the whole purpose of HEN also. And I so resonate with what you are saying, Shweta, because even the entrepreneurial journey, you don't know all the answers. You're seeking those answers, right? And just having somebody whom you can talk to makes so much of a difference because at least you have a sounding board, and something to just fall back on. So I think that's really nice. So coming to your book, right? I think it's very difficult to even write a word, but writing an entire book is another ballgame altogether. So how did the inspiration of the book come? I am getting the drift that it was your journey primarily, but sincerely, like when did you decide that okay, I'll put this in the shape of a book, and how was the journey of this writing, the whole writing process that you undertook?
Yeah, yeah, I completely resonate. And so, like I said, writing is a skill. So there was always this dream that someday I will write a book, right? So I would read books by a lot of authors, and I would say, they would all say how difficult the writing journey is. And I would also always wonder, saying, "Arey, what is so difficult about writing it, right? You're writing about a subject you'll know eventually." But then when I started writing, I kind of realized why this whole journey is so difficult. So the idea came to me very organically. So around 2021, I got a couple of ideas all simultaneously, and I was just penning them down as a part of my journaling
Mm.
process. After my meditation, I would just write them down and say what is emerging for me. And slowly, this book took shape. And at that point, it was not titled Far From Fine. The first draft was titled Time to Wake Up from Your Slumber, and
Oh,
that still is the theme to a large extent. It is a wake up call, but that was the initial draft of the book. And I really just started by saying that because I would look around, I would talk to people, and they would have this projection of being a very successful, sorted human being. And within a few minutes of talking, all of those secrets would unravel, and doubt will be there, worry would be there, fear would be there, and they're constantly stressed, constantly having tension in their relationships. And when I started seeing all of this, I said, hey, we are putting on a facade when we are not really as okay as we claim to be.
Hmm.
And I really felt, what can we do to actually solve for that? Because I came from a very, I always say that I'm a life enthusiast. I love life. So to
Hmm.
me, when I see that, it is something that can be solvable or it is manageable, but we still suffer that, for me, that was a challenge, right? So say, life throws us curveballs. We have health challenges, money issues, whatever circumstances that we have to endure, there's nothing we can do about it, right? So we
Yeah.
do whatever best we can. But when we do it with us, with our own minds, right? Because we believe we are supposed to be someone, we believe we need to be perfect, we need to be productive. So for me, suffering our own minds felt a little too tragic, saying that, if there is a way where we can live with ease, there is a way where we can live with joy and really have the best time in our days. And instead we suffer our minds, because the people I was talking to are not people who don't have money in their bank accounts, who don't have food on their plates, who don't have a roof above their heads. They were all privileged, successful people. And then I said, we shouldn't be suffering. We shouldn't cry. We should, thank the stars that we have everything it is to live a life of comfort. So
Yeah.
I can keep going on, but I'll pause here, saying that
Okay.
the origin of the book really came from saying that, can we at least not suffer our minds? The optional
Okay.
sufferings, at least, can we figure out how to manage ourselves, self regulate ourselves, so that we can move through life effortlessly. And the question about what you asked about the writing journey, I think it was a true test for me also, and a growth journey for me, because, a couple of years ago, I would also hesitate to call myself a coach, saying,
Okay.
can I really talk about life? Do I know enough to talk about all of this? I'm
Hmm.
29. Where's the gray hair?
Yeah.
Uh, is this something that I can really do? So, the writing of the book was also a way to synthesize my own learnings and to really recognize, hey, this is something I can offer to the world, because this is something I have figured out through my journey. And it was.
See,
While I wrote about overcoming doubt, worry, and fear, it was a journey for me also to overcome doubt, worry, and fear, and actually put the book out in the world.
Okay, wonderful. That's really interesting. So you also mentioned that you journal, right? Somewhere earlier on in the conversation. How important is journaling in an author's journey? Like, did your journal actually give you ideas for your book, or was it completely different? Or do you see musings from your journal may crawl their way into your book? Did that help you?
Of course, of course. And I'd probably say that journaling helps all of us, not just as an author. I
Hmm.
think the biggest flex for me, so I've been journaling since my teen years, as long as I can remember. And it used to initially be a way to process emotions.
Hmm.
But as I went along, I also realized that it's a beautiful way to clarify your own thoughts. Why am
Hmm.
I thinking the way I'm thinking? What about this is actually making me anxious? Why do I feel the way I do today, but not on other days? What about this one particular person is triggering me the way, I won't respond like this, but to this one particular person, I am responding like that. So it was a beautiful way for me to unravel and say, what is really going on in my inner world? And then
Hmm.
choose consciously, what is it that I'd like to do differently now that I see these patterns. So one of the things that I also talk about the book is that a lot of our responses to modern day challenges is to, cure the symptom. We
Hmm.
don't really take a pause to look at the deep rooted issue from where it is happening. So I give this common example that if we can't fall asleep, we take sleeping pills. Nobody really asks, saying, what is stopping me from falling asleep? What am I holding on to? What are some emotions that are so uncomfortable that I'm not able to let go and fall asleep? And the challenge is that any lasting solution will come only if we are able to touch the root cause of where it is coming from. We can put band-aids over deep gashes as much as we can, but it won't stop the bleeding. It'll keep happening one way or another. So the only way to really do is to suture it up, right? You need to do the stitches to actually heal the wound, and that comes from self-awareness. That comes from understanding what is happening within, not by scrolling Instagram, but understanding what is happening in my own head. And that is where I think journaling plays a beautiful role. And of course, as an author, it helps me write down so many things. It helps me process my own emotions, and then of
Mhm.
course capture insights, because every single day we encounter, we learn so much from our life experiences. I'm sure you do, right? The number of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs you talk to, every
Yeah.
conversation must be so intriguing. Journaling is a great way to capture that.
Wonderful. Great. I need to get started, but thank you for the inspiration here, Shweta. All right. So, my next question to you is, how do I identify, or how does one identify whether they are living in the rut or they're actually living, right? So, that is what your book is essentially talking about. But is it really for me? How do I identify that? Why should I pick up your
Yeah, yeah. I think there are some beautiful signs that's the beauty about life, that it's always communicating with you. It's not a one-way track, right? It's just
book?
that we live in such a noisy world and we're constantly consuming things. We don't really pay attention to what the inner voice is whispering. But if you actually look at signs, how do you really know that you're in a rut? There is a constant sense of dread. When you wake up in the morning, you don't feel like you're looking forward to something. You're simply moving from one day to the next. You're always busy 24 by 7, but at the end of the day, when you look at your day, you're like, did I really accomplish something? Do I feel fulfilled or satisfied? Is a big question mark. You find yourself constantly needing an escape. Either it could be a Korean drama on Netflix, or it could be traveling to different countries, or all substances, your alcohol, drugs. These are all ways for you to numb yourself so that you don't feel what you're feeling, or you're constantly emotionally overwhelmed, that is, you break down at the top of a trigger. You're not able to cope with your daily demands. All your basics, like sleep, diet, movement, all of them you're not able to regulate on a daily basis. So there are more and enough and more signs to tell whether or not you are living life on autopilot. And to answer your question on how do I know if this book is for me, I would
Yeah.
say that reflect on, is there friction in a daily basis in your life, right? Are you so one thing I always tell my clients is that if you're telling it's not that bad, that means you need to pick
Mhm.
up the book, right? Because if it is not that bad, you're waiting to hit rock bottom before you find your way, right? So if you
Yeah.
find yourself saying, "Oh, my business is not that great, but it's not that bad either. Please
Yeah.
figure out what it is that needs to be fixed." My relationship, everything, right? So it's not that bad is a in between space where we are feeling frictions, where it's
Mhm.
not that effortless. Something is telling us there's something amiss. But what happens is that, I used to be a banker before, so I often hear this from people saying that, but Shweta, I've been banking for 15 years, right? This is
Yeah.
all I know. So the question, if you also have the question saying that, okay, a lot of you might say, I know this is not it. I know what I'm working on is not sustainable, but I don't know what else to do. Then also the book provides a clarity or a roadmap to say, where can you get started? How do you make that transition happen in a slow, gentle way that is comfortable for you? Because all of us have responsibilities. We can't quit and go to the Himalayas tomorrow. We need to make all our different choices here and now in our interrelationships, in our chaos, and find
Mhm.
answers to what we're looking for. So that is where I think the book helps. So if you feel like there are certain friction points in your life, or if you feel like you know what is not working, but you don't know what next, I think both things will help you find answers in the book.
Wonderful. Okay, so well said. I think it'll add value, because if you're confused and that's what you're answering for people, it'll be nice to hear. Okay, so the next question for you is that as entrepreneurs, we are constantly hustling, right? How can we be more intentional and build with more confidence or self regulate ourselves in the journey?
Mm, mm. Yeah, absolutely. I just noticed that the book title is saying far from fear, it's far from fine. But To talk about the hustle in the corporate world, I mean, in the entrepreneurial world, I think two things. A lot of times, as entrepreneurs, actually, as any professionals, what we do is that we go from out to in, which
Mm,
means that we look at what other people around us are doing and then
mm,
choose what we should be doing. Right? So
mm,
if I see someone posting 10 Instagram reels a day without thinking whether or not my business needs it, I'll also start shooting 10 Instagram reels. I'll also
yeah,
do this. And then what happens that the to-do list is always overflowing. It never ends. And that is what causes a lot of stress. So intentionality actually helps you go inside out to say, okay, this is where I am and this is where I want to reach. And it's a reasonable expectation and it's a goal that makes sense for me, for my business, for my customers, to create the impact I want to create. There might be people who want to scale to $1 million or a $5 million or a $10 million business because that is their goal. But maybe in your case, that is not the goal. Your goal is to create an impact. So understanding from within what your intentions are and then choosing what your action needs to be. So I think that is one way where a lot of unnecessary things automatically filter out because you're no longer putting the pressure to do things that you don't need to do. Then once you have this clarity, I think also what you mentioned about how to actually put yourself out there with confidence, I think that is the journey of inner work. It's not something that happens overnight, but you keep showing up for your business, you keep learning from your mistakes, you slowly push that comfort zone, wider and wider in terms of where it is that you're comfortable operating. And over a period of time, that confidence, you reach a stage where it happens automatically, right? Where it doesn't take an effort to put yourself out there, but it is an inner work of cleansing, saying, why am I doing what I'm doing? By doing this, what am I hoping to achieve? And the more clearer you get, the more conscious your actions are. So I like this distinction that I think I read in one of Osho's books, where he talks about all of us are busy with activity, right? That means we are doing one activity after another. And he says, can we choose conscious action instead? Right? So you're still working, you're still busy, you're still doing what needs to be done, you still hustle. Nobody's taking that away from you. But can you consciously hustle in the right spaces where it's absolutely needed? And this goes back to the being in the being miraculous, right? A lot of entrepreneurs cannot step back. We are so attached, and this is something even I've learned, because even I used to be like, I am being miraculous and being miraculous is me. There was no distinction between Shweta and being miraculous, right? It was so entangled as identities. I think that's where all these yogic concepts also come in so beautifully, right? So yoga talks about both abhyasa and vairagya. Abhyasa is practice, right? You show up for your business, you do the work that's needed, you keep upskilling. But vairagya is also detachment. You let go. You don't hold on to results so much. You don't hold on to the identity as an entrepreneur so much. Tomorrow, if my business fails, can Shweta still stand strong? Absolutely. That's the work I'm doing. It's okay if being miraculous fails, I'll do something else. That's the confidence that we have. And I think that comes from that detachment. Priyanka, I think you're on mute.
sorry. Yes, very nicely explained, Shweta. And I think I'm already very curious about your book. So I'm sure people have questions as well. Let me just check if there are questions. We'll just take that. Okay, so Ruchi asks, yeah, would like to know the kind of changes you have experienced in your life.
Such a loaded question, Ruchi. I think the biggest, I would say, so the first was to learn to believe in myself. There is so much of doubt and there is so much of conditioning that people outside of us know better than we know ourselves. I think the biggest lessons being miraculous gave me is to learn to trust myself, to learn to trust my intuition, to be able to choose what is right for me. And I think the second biggest thing that I would have probably gained is so much ease in my life. I used to be this tightly wound up, controlling freak, planning everything, constantly living by the clock. And I think the time part is still there a little bit, but it's not going to go away that quickly. But I think there is just a very general ease where I there is no need to prove myself. There is no need to be productive, to accomplish results based on some external yardstick. I think there is that ease that has come in, which is very organic and very uh, lasting, because like I said, tomorrow if all my external reality crumbles, there is this confidence that I have an anchor. I do know my practices, my sadhana, it'll all keep me going, right? I think that is a comfort that I have.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Shweta. I do not see any more questions in the chat. I'll just give it a few seconds. And in the meantime, would you like to share with us just a few snippets as to what can somebody look forward to in your book? Maybe some tips or something that you want to share from.
Sure, absolutely. So, for everybody curious, this is the book. I'm not sure if you can see. Yeah, Far
Yeah,
From
far.
Fine. And essentially, I think what the book offers is a roadmap, a gentle roadmap to self discovery. And I think I've very consciously written it in a very different way compared to a prescriptive self-help kind of nonfiction books where the answer is given to you in a platter. And the reason why I didn't want to do that is all of us are very different, and all of us already know what we need to do, to kind of help ourselves in our lives. So it is more written in a way that is provoking self-inquiry and reflection, so that you ask yourselves the right questions and find answers that feel fulfilling for you. So
Hmm.
that is how the book is written, and the roadmap is a gentle process wherein you can choose how deep you want to go based on where you are in your current life context. You can go
Hmm.
as deep or you can stay at that level where you feel comfort. But to really say, how can I first calm myself down so that I'm not constantly stressed, I'm not constantly anxious, I'm not constantly on the verge of burnout? Once I find that calmness, how can I really find clarity? What is that process of really discovering? And that is our inner journey of saying, who am I? What do I value? What does success mean to me? And once I have these answers, all of these doubts, worries, fears will come. Am I good enough? Will it work out? What will people think of me? What will society judge? What if I fail? All of these questions will come up, and the journey is the destination. So, as we overcome these hurdles, we also unlock parts of ourselves that we have probably kept shut down. And then, of course, I always say this, that this is something my teacher tells me, my yoga teacher, wherein he says that, personal growth or professional growth and development is a lifetime's work. So it is not
Hmm.
something you do once and it's done. It is something that you're going to be constantly doing, and it's a constant evolution. So you need to be committed in that path to see lasting results. So, how do you really be consistent and committed towards your own personal ambitions and aspirations? So, the book will really give you that roadmap, and you choose how deep you want to go, how further you want to go. And there is also a course around the book itself, so we do walk through these concepts in a group coaching kind of a setup. For those of you who feel like, okay, the book is great, but Shweta, I need your help, that is where that comes in, saying, how can we jointly walk that path together?
Wonderful. Wonderful. I think, Shweta, I really enjoyed talking to you today because personally, I also believe in self discovery, and the answers are probably always within us. We just need to find that little corner where the answers lie, right? So great, lovely talking to you, Shweta, and thank you for coming on this live. We wish you a grand success with your book and wish you all the best. And we'll end the live today, and I'll see you around in the community. Bye bye.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Priyanka, for having me here. Take care.